Hey, Farrah. I'm super stoked to have you here on the podcast. It's kind of funny because I think you like originally found the podcast and then we kind of like organically became friends after that. Is that how we did it?
Yeah. I think I was just looking for more females out there that surfed and they were presently online, and I happened upon Confessions of a Lady Surfer and just been
Surf lady.
Lady surfer.
It's okay. Get the brand right, Farrah. Yeah.
But yeah, I just been following your progression and how it's grown, and I guess I've been a fan, even though I can't get the name right. I'm a fan.
You get the concepts right. It's all right. Yeah.
Lady surfer, surf lady.
Yeah, you're whatever you want to be on any given day. Whatever you want to call. You've been so supportive. I think, and I'm like so grateful for you and other listeners like you. If like anything, it's not just about like the work and like being able to put it out there and having people listen, which is really cool. But like we've truly become friends.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. We've like bonded over both being Filipino. Yeah. We also bonded more when we went to Baja with Manny, because we're both the short ones. So we both sat in the back row of the Suburban.
The back.
Which was like pretty funny. I'll have to post like more videos and pictures and stuff of Baja. I mean, I meant to like when we got back, but I was so tired, like when we got back, that I kind of fell out of like the loop with it. But yeah,
post more. Too often than like the account. My account, I just started posting like more than once, which is rare for me, and my account just started like wigging out. So I got so frustrated because posts started disappearing, and I didn't know something wrong with the algorithm. I was so excited to post all these Baja photos and videos, and then Instagram just betrayed me. So
yeah, Instagram's like, no. No one gets to know about your amazing weekend in Baja with the lady surfers. So it's been really cool. So we went out for a surf yesterday, and this is why we're doing this episode. Like, well, first of all, I hadn't surfed in like a month. Yeah. Oh yeah, you hadn't surfed, because you've had family visiting. Yeah. And that
month of May is like, I'm so affected by the sun as well. I'm motivated when the sun is out, and there was no sun. It was May gray, so and it was windy, and it was
gosh.
Just not the best conditions.
It's not the best at all. Yeah. So for anyone that's listening, I'm in California. I mean, if you're coming to visit, spring is not the best time for surf. It gets super windy. Everything gets blown out. And actually, when we were in Baja, it was actually pretty windy too.
But manageable. It still
was
works.
Manageable. Yeah.
Good footage. Yeah. Except for that fog.
Except for which one? Oh my God. Oh my God, the fog.
Fog.
Should we share the fog story? I know we have another story to get to, but like the fog story was kind of good, right?
I mean, I think the theme here is safety, really.
Yes.
The theme here is safety.
Perfect.
So I don't know. Do you want to?
You can start it off.
So when you're on the water, I guess this is in Baja, this is the first time coming out there and paddling out. So like already you're kind of cautious about conditions, about the crowd, about how you might be imposing. And so, but overall, going into it, everything ran really smoothly. And then it was the first morning?
It was the first morning.
Okay.
And when we went out, it was basically small, like 2 foot and glassy.
Yeah. It was
right. Yeah.
But we knew that there were these clouds, just kind of this overcast, just kind of out in the distance, out in the ocean. And we didn't really calibrate or realize how quickly this overcast was moving in. So I would say maybe like an hour or so, not maybe less than an hour or so. This coverage just swooped onto land, and this thick fog just covered all of the beach area, and you really couldn't see. First, it was kind of whimsical, and it was kind of cool,
I think that's why out of all the people, you and I stayed out. Yeah. Because everyone else went in and I was like, well, Farrah's here, whatever, it's fine. And like, so we both stayed.
Yeah. And then it just got thicker and thicker. And then you just really couldn't see even 2 feet in front of you. And we knew which direction was the beach, but we didn't know if the current was pulling us. You know, that's another thing is like, make sure you take note of which way the current is pulling you. But even if you do take note, you don't know how fast or where you're being pulled to, because you could be being pulled north or south, but not how far that you're getting pulled to. So and plus we don't really know this spot. While Manny, our guide, our instructor, he's out there on shore. We couldn't see him, even if you wanted to like try to signal us to see. We really couldn't see land anywhere.
And then the key thing is like, this is a break that's next to a cliffside. Yeah. And so a high tide hits into the cliffside and there are definitely rocks.
It's kind of high tide. Yeah. I think it was a little bit.
Well, that was like the other thing too. I mean, that's the key thing, like knowing if the tide's rising or lowering before you get in. Like we didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think we thought of that when we went out.
Yeah. It was, everything just happened so quickly, but we knew that we had to get back on shore. We had to figure it out before you know, if there was going to be a big set moving through, and then just making the challenge that we're already facing even a bigger challenge. So we did our best to try to paddle back to shore, thinking like maybe we could take a wave in, but it wasn't. It was just like a lot of your nerves, a lot of the unknowns that you had to battle with, really testing yourself with the elements and trying to get paddle back to shore. And I'm like, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. I might as well, like, I might crash into rocks, but at least it's land.
I know. I like looked at you. I was like, okay, so our options, I think, because like we're looking at the ridge line and trying to figure out, I think we could see like an outline of one fence. And I was like, okay, yeah. I think that we're like this far down from that cliff. And like, it was just impossible, like trying to make sense out of nothing. And knowing there's rocks in front of us. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm like in my head, I'm like, we could just paddle in and deal with what's in front of us. Yeah. Like that was option one. And like option two was like, we could just stay out here till this is done. Till we've drifted to Ensenada. Like, I don't know. Seriously. But like, so when we're out there, yeah, it was pretty scary because you'd look and like you wouldn't see the set until it was like upon you. Like you just couldn't see that far. And there was like that one guy who was there with the girl that, do you think they were on a lesson? I thought they were on a lesson.
I was picking up that she hired him for a lesson.
Okay.
Whether they were friends or whatnot. I mean, he wasn't the best.
No, not in a time of panic. It wasn't looking good. Yeah. So we see this guy and I'm like, I think he's an instructor. Like, let's ask him, like, maybe he's from here and like, he'll be able to know like where we should go in. So we ask him. First time there.
Yeah, it was his first time. Plus, it was her first time surfing.
Yeah,
well. And it was just, you know, blind leading the blind.
Yeah, it really was. Wait, so how did you? Because you ended up paddling in, and then I remember seeing you like on the shore waving your board, like just giving us enough visual attention to see what direction you were at. Do you like remember what happened? Did you just say fuck it?
I honestly said fuck it because I kind of try to remember what other conditions that I've been in to try to get back to shore, because I've been in some challenging situations as well. And so if I just framed my mind thinking like, okay, this can be something similar to your time when Sunset Cliffs was really going crazy, which I've been in a situation like that. I'm like, okay, it could get that bad. And if it does, you survived it. Like that's the mentality I had to put my mind in. And so I just kept paddling because I was like, okay, these rocks, I'm just going to pretend I'm in Sunset Cliffs. I'm just going to pretend I'm in a spot that I'm comfortable with, that I know. And so I just gingerly just tried to not get my foot stuck in the rocks or get too scraped up. And before I knew it, I saw that I'm able to stand. And I looked behind me and I didn't see any big waves like rolling through to try to like, push me or take me up off my feet. So I was like, okay, I think I'm in a good, safe spot. So I'm just gonna book it to where there's no water hitting the shore. And then when I got to shore, I looked around and I had no idea where I was. I was like, because the fog was still like just messing any direction of which way was the house, which way was Manny, which way was, all the familiar spots that I thought I knew where it was around me. So I just kept walking. I was like, well, I know this way is north. I know this way is south.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm going to walk. I have a 50-50 decision to figure out if I'm going to run into any familiarity. So I think I headed south and I just saw Manny there. Like after a few feet, I finally saw Manny, which was only a few feet. That's how bad the fog was.
That's so crazy. I didn't know he was that close to you.
Yeah, he was really, really close, I realized. And then I was just like, oh my God, Manny was really surprised. He's like, where did you come from? I was like, I honestly don't know another realm.
Another realm, yeah.
So Manny was worried about you guys getting back because he realized that if I came from that way where the rocks were, you guys were going to come that way too. So luckily, like Manny finally took the initiative to like try to flag you down, but I don't think you guys really saw him. So I was just like, I know it's like orange. It's a bright orange and green surfboard. I'm like, they could see this thing. So I'm taking back in the water and like gesture my surfboard this way or that, whichever way.
Yeah. You definitely, you had and I saw you and he kept saying paddle further north because you guys both knew there were rocks on that side and like I was trying to paddle towards where you were at and it was a lot of paddling. And this poor girl that was like, she was like just kind of scared of course, like I totally would be scared if that was like my first time surfing and this is what was going on. Like these sets at least like 4 to 5 feet coming at you. You don't know what's inside. It's completely foggy. Her instructor was kind of not really being the most like the most patient maybe, So but when we finally came in and she said that this was like her first time surfing, I was like, I just want you to know this is not what surfing's like. Like, I promise you, I've surfed for like a decade and this has never happened to me. Not like this, Yeah. So, but we made it. And I think, we learned some I think both of us were just like, oh, this is so cool. Let's just stay out here.
And then like 3 or 4 hours later, you went back out and I was like, nah, I'm cool. I'm going to wait till
And then that afternoon, you guys were like, come on, Laura, come out surfing. And I was like, I don't know. And I was like, it looks shitty out there. And I never say it looks shitty, but it kind of just was windy. You're like, come on. And we had been doing in the Surf Society, we'd been doing the fitness challenge. And in the fitness challenge, you earn points for every time you surf and when you work out, right? So every session, you got like X amount of points. And Justine, who one day is going to be listening to this and laughing at it really hard. So Justine, who was in the fitness challenge, was basically like kicking all her asses because she's super competitive, super active every day. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like trying to get out of this like last session of the day. And everybody's like, Justine would do it. Or I don't know, I think I asked something and Manny was like, yeah, Justine would already be out there. And I was like, God damn it. Must beat Justine.
Give that extra push.
Yeah.
Beat out somebody.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was so good. But yeah, so what would you say are our safety tips since our theme is safety today?
Safety tips. I mean,
from that session.
Don't panic. I think is the biggest thing. All all waves lead back to the shore. Maybe not. Maybe that's not the best to say. Just don't panic and reassess your knowledge, what you do know, because you'd be surprised how much you know in order to survive. And take your time. Like, don't think too much about, some big set that's going to come through and just, put more added pressure or more added challenge to it. And eventually you'll find yourself, and then hopefully somebody's on shore to help you. Rely on community, I guess. So
yeah.
Rely on that. I guess that's my biggest takeaway. Try to rely on what you already know to survive, because it's in you, it's in there.
Yeah. And I think I definitely have paid more attention now, especially surfing in a place like that, like what the tide's doing. So am I expecting there to be no beach? And then also we totally could have been like, that looks like fog out in the back, and like gathered more information that we were going to be in that situation. I mean, maybe not. Sometimes that stuff just comes out like really quickly.
There's a whole phrase of when in doubt, don't paddle out. But I mean, if you're already out.
Yeah, right? Because that was like a beautiful morning. There was no indication that was about to happen when we paddled out. Like even for like the first hour we were out.
And I've been in fog before, like up in Del Mar. I've been in that fog, so I was like, oh, it's not gonna be that crazy. But it got really a lot thicker than what I've known. And so I don't know, sometimes it's just like, if you will find yourself in a dangerous situation that you didn't expect, but you could, don't panic.
Yeah, don't panic. Totally. Okay, so that brings us to our session that happened yesterday. And I was like, we need to record an episode like ASAP because we gotta keep it fresh.
Yeah.
So like, tell us what happened yesterday.
Oh gosh, I hope I phrased this right, because I was just thinking about like, how am I going to best describe what happened? Because anytime anybody's trying to describe a situation where they've had some kind of interaction with another surfer, it doesn't really come out right. Like, I think about people's stories and I'm like, I don't know how that makes sense. So I'm hoping that how I frame this will make sense. And then Laura, you'll have to help me out, because maybe I'll get my words mixed up. So we're at La Jolla Shores yesterday, and it's a pretty good day. I would say it's like about 2 to 3 feet, maybe sometimes 4 feet. I would consider it really mellow and easy waves. Just really easy paddle out. Sometimes La Jolla Shores can be a really difficult paddle out. And it was getting kind of crowded, but manageable, like nothing out of the ordinary. And knowing how to navigate the crowd, you're like, okay, I'm aware that that person there is, they need their space, or they need help, or like they got it, they're fine. I'm going to staying out of their way. I would hope other people are seeing me and making that same judgment as well, like stay out of her way. I hope it's that judgment.
Get away from me. This is my peak now.
So I would say it's about like an hour in. I don't know, maybe half an hour into our surf session. You kind of drifted away.
Oh, yeah. I did.
Find you. But actually, I was thinking like, when I spotted you, I was like, oh, I'll probably paddle out over there. I'll just wait for the next set. And and that set ended up being
the incident.
The incident. So a set comes in, I take a wave, and then, I'm like, done. I get off, dismount, and then I'm paddling back up to the lineup. And so, the set's still rolling through. So waves are still breaking. And the waves aren't, crazy breaking, but they're breaking. And you see, in your periphery, in your vision, that there's surfers paddling towards trying to make sure that they're not going to, have to take the wave on their head or whatever. And mind you, also, I should also describe that I'm surfing a 5'2" fish. So it takes me an extra amount of time to paddle. Whereas if you're on a longboard, it's a really quick paddle. So I'm a much slower paddler on a short board than a person is on a long board. So it's very key to know this information. So as I'm paddling back to the lineup, I noticed that there's this guy that is on this is my left-hand side. He's, catching up on me on his longboard, on his soft top. It's a foamy, which thankfully it is a foamy. But he just whizzes right by me, like right on my left side here. And I'm just like, all right, dude. And then like I see this wave breaking, you're awfully very close to me. In my mind, I'm thinking this. And then I figured, we're all going straight, just surf straight, just take the wave that's gonna break on you. Instead, what he decides to do is paddle past me, then cut me off, back paddling me. And then right when he does that, the wave breaks on us. And so his board comes flipping forward towards me and slams me right in the face. I am like, at the same time, I'm like, I pray to God this duck dive that I'm about to do is going to get me out of the way. What's going to happen next? But it just didn't help, so the wave breaks, his foam board pops out because he has no control over his board, pops out and slams me in the face. And I resurface and I'm thinking, oh crap, like I bet my nose better not be broken. But I feel my nose piercing just is bent out of shape. And
that's crazy.
So thankfully, had this been a hard top, my face would have been broken. It would have been to the point where I probably would be in emergency needing to get my nose fixed. And that would not be, I think it would be a completely different story. But
oh yeah,
I was still pissed off because so my nose piercing's bent and my attitude's bent out of shape. I resurface and I'm like, what the hell is your problem? Are you fucking kidding me? He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm like, yeah, right. You saw me. You surfed right past me. You snaked me. And I'm just like, I don't care who sees it because everybody, it's a crowded spot at this.
Yeah.
Everybody's just like staring awkwardly at this chick yelling at this dude. And I'm just like trying to keep checking my nose to see or if I'm bleeding or if like anything's broken, if I'm feeling any pain. And there was a guy that asked me like, hey, are you okay? And I'm just like so heated and like, I don't fucking know if I'm okay. You tell me, am I okay? I don't know. I can't see if like there's anything wrong with my face right now. And I'm like looking at my board. And the thing that gets me so triggered and why I get so pissed off is just, first and foremost, it's etiquette and safety. And the kid, the guy, he's young and he just, I'm already falling into these judgment stereotypes that I have of other surfers out in the lineup. So, I'm assessing him. I was assessing him, getting so pissed off, and it's like it's not the best. It's not a good character. It's not good to be thinking these things. But I'm thinking of all the mean things I could think about a person, about being a beginner, about being stupid, and about like I noticed that he was Brazilian, and I'm like, of course he's Brazilian. They don't care. They don't give a shit about other surfers because that's the stereotype. It's an unfortunate, really sad stereotype. I was like, these Brazilians. They're just, I'm like muttering under my breath. I'm like, they just surf wherever they please. They don't care who they run into. Like, and then you finally coming over, you paddle over, and you're like, does somebody need to get their ass kicked? Who's gonna beat up right now?
Like, hey, what happened? Are you okay? I'm like, who needs it? Like, whose ass do we need to kick? Oh my God.
It was just so intense, and I know I made it intense, and I know I'm not looking like a good person at this point, but like, it's that, or like, what was I supposed to do? Was I supposed to be like, oh no, man, it's cool, it's cool. You see my nose and everything, and you know, you may have broken my surfboard. Oh yeah, it's fine. Like, nah, I'm not there. Like,
Well, I think like the key thing is like you just got hit in the face. Like that is like it. I would say you would be hard pressed to find someone that could keep their exposure when they've been hit in the face unexpectedly.
Yeah. I guess it's a lot of frustration in general that, you know, bubbled up, of frustration about people who don't play it safe, people who don't respect etiquette and have any spatial awareness, because you run into that so many times, and there's not enough incidents or blatant incidents where you can just go all out and be like, dude, stop doing what you're doing, get out of the lineup. So I guess it was like a bubble up of all of those unresolved situations that finally it's like, oh, like I'm gonna let this go now. So I let him have it, and then, you know, like and I hear him in the back I hear him down in the line talking to his friend in Portuguese, and I'm thinking like, he's probably talking shit about me. You know, I'm gonna talk shit about him in English, like. So I'm just like complaining about him in front of you and in front of anybody else that's earshot.
But yeah, no, I've totally been in situations where like something happens and like it sucks in the sense that you have to, I believe you have to say something. And like, whether that is that you end up yelling or whatever it is, like something needs to be said. And it sucks because the feeling is something sometimes like, oh my God, all these people are watching me, but you know what? I'm pissed. I'm fucking pissed right now, you know? Yeah. And then I hit a wall where I'm just like, I don't give a fuck who sees me. You guys can fucking watch me. Yeah. I was like, you watch me regulate your lineup that you surf in and keep your lineup safe.
It's the bystander effect. Like, you're just
so many
watching something unravel, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna put on a show. Yeah, put on a show.
Yeah, totally.
This bitch isn't gonna take things quietly.
And like, I love that. I like so love that about you, because like, I know if I go surfing and like something happens to my friends or something happens to me, like everyone here is going to hear about it, because this is our lineup and we're here together. And sometimes that makes like other people that I surf with maybe a little more uncomfortable, because like they're just not used to confronting like that. But I'm like, yeah, but you know, if it happens to you and I'm with you, I'm going to say something too. Like we're not going to let this go quiet, you know?
And I think with that mindset of you, like saying something that led to you saying something to that guy, which is super appreciative, because we wouldn't be where we are today. So how do I put this? Like, the guy that hit me, we're friends now. But let me explain why we're friends now.
Yeah, so it's funny because I knew that you felt bad that like you had to yell at him, right? Yeah, and I'm like, dude, that feeling. Go ahead.
Oh no! What was your question?
No, I'm just like, no, and that feeling sucks. Like, that sucks. But you were obviously hit in the face, and so like I was like, should I say something to him? And then when I ended up like surfing away, but I ended up right next to him, like right next to him. So I was like, let me just ask him. I'm like, hey man, like, did your board and hit my friend, and did it hit her in the face? And then he was like, yeah, you know, that it happened and blah, blah. And he was like trying to say how he was sorry and blah, you know, all that. And then finally, you know, what changed it to me mentally was I said, like, do you need a lesson on how it works out here? And he said, a lesson? I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, could you please tell me? That's when I realized, like, okay, he like doesn't really know, but his attitude is what changed everything. Yeah. And I talked to him for a while, and then I told him, I was like, well, you know what? She's really upset, like, as she should be. Cause he was like, I was trying to say sorry, but she was so angry. I was like, yeah, a board hit her in the face. Like, that would make you angry. Yeah. And I was like, but she's really upset. So if you really are sorry, like, you should tell her again, cause she doesn't think that was an accident. Yeah. And then at that point, did he approach you? Was that what happened?
Yeah, I took another wave, and then I think he gave his board to his friend because I think he didn't want to come near me with his board. Come to think about it, playing the back of my mind, because I noticed I was like, "Where the hell is his board this time?"
You've ditched it now.
But he came up to me and he's like, I am so, like, I just want to let you know, I am really, really sorry. And I'm like, are you sorry? You know, like, why, like, in my mind, I'm thinking, why is he talking to me again? Because and so he's like, I want to know what I did wrong. And I'm like, how do you know what you did wrong? I felt like I had to talk to him like a mother. I was like, you know what you did wrong. You know, you completely disregarded the etiquette and the safety. And for me, safety is the biggest thing that will set me off, especially if it puts everybody at risk. Like, I yelled at a kayaker for being at a lineup. This was at Termo. He was like, and this is like a long, long time ago. Not the there was, okay, side note, there was a kayaker that was actually really skilled at Termo, and I didn't get mad at him because he knew what he was doing. But some other random kayaker came to Termo and was you know, trying to be in the lineup of, you know, 10 people. And I just had to say something like, this is not safe. Like, it's not safe for you to be here. Your kayak can knock anybody out. Like, so anyways, you can edit that part out if you wanted to.
No. I feel like Farrah making your lineup a safer place.
Yeah, that's like, I think that's the one thing that will always trigger me if I'm going to throw down. I am going to throw down because you violated the lineup with how unsafe you were being, and then maybe of course like your etiquette. If those two things combine, then you're gonna summon me. So I explained it to him, explained why it was unsafe for him to just pass other surfers up. Like, I told him, you cannot paddle past somebody and then cut across them. Like, especially when you see a wave coming, everybody's going in the same direction. You just can't do that because that situation will arise. And it did. And had it been a hardtop surfboard, my face would have been broken and blood everywhere. So that's the worst case scenario, or a concussion, or just somebody just doesn't even notice, and then I'm, you know, laying down face down in the water. Like, there could be so many bad things to think about here, but at worst, my face definitely would have been 100% broken if it was a hard top surfboard. So having him understand that, like, you can't do that because you fucked me over. He's like, oh, I get it. So I gotta fuck myself before I fuck anybody else. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's the best way to think about it. Fuck yourself in the lineup for everybody else's safety, you know. Take one for the team.
That's so funny.
So it was nice to see this light bulb come off, and also the fact that he really wanted to understand what he did wrong. And it's so rare to think that anybody wants to know what they did wrong. Everybody wants to double down and say that they did nothing wrong. It's very common in the world today.
Yeah.
So etiquette, and I explained to him about being spatially aware about others. You know, you have to just read everybody around. You know, the waves here are like, La Jolla is an easy day. Today's an easy day. If you get fucked, you're not going to drown. That's not going to happen to you. Like, everything here is a mellow day. You know, he's like, oh, thank you so much. I've only been here for 20 days. I just came here from Brazil for 20 days. So I get it. He's like learning, not just the lineup. He's trying to understand, like, just everything with adapting in general. So I think it's a lot of pressure. And so he was really sweet, and he wasn't resistant. He wasn't resistant to hearing feedback, and he wanted to know more about, you know, surfing and who am I? And so that prompted me to ask him questions, and then all of a sudden we're laughing, we're joking, and we're laughing, and we're having a good time. So, like, I was like, it takes a big person to go up and want to really have a conversation, because even I don't do that either, you know, but I'm willing to always have a conversation if you want to prompt a conversation. And, you know, in the surf world and in lineups, you don't have conversations unless it's about real estate or coming back from a surf trip or NFTs and like, that they have out there. But yeah, like yeah, nobody ever really wants to confront safety, I guess, and admit that they were wrong. And he set an example to me too, to be humble. And, you know, I felt really bad after that for yelling at him, knowing that, I mean, I felt really bad yelling at him because he was truly sorry. And I wasn't receiving that. I was so angry that I hope that if I ever cross somebody in the lineup as well, you know, henceforth, just, I hope that they're either also willing to forgive me as well. It happens. I'm not saying that I'm the perfect surfer. I'm not. And I know that, like, there are going to be incidences that you can't control, and that you just hope that the person that you end up harming or semi-harming, that they're forgivable, that they're forgiving as well. And that just overall, I think we overall just want to have a good surf session, because I didn't want to sit in my anger as well. I didn't want to ruin, it was such a beautiful day. And the last thing I want to experience is me having a terrible surf session, not because of the waves, but because I had this terrible interaction with another fellow surfer. And I would hate for that surfer as well to have a terrible surf session because they experienced me being so angry, or, you know, scowling or whatever. So I think that we could get so past it if we just take that little time to talk to one another, to formulate that community, that sense of community out on the lineup. So
yeah. And I think he totally, I think, surprised me also, because he was like, in his like early 20s or mid 20s. And yeah, typically telling a guy something like that in their mid or early 20s, they'd kind of give you a fuck off attitude. Yeah. And he wasn't like that. And that was so refreshing. And it made the session actually so much better with how stoked he was that he made new friends. Like, he was like so appreciative. He was like so glad, like asking us what our Instagram handles are, like, you know, trying to like, and he actually surfs at Tourmaline too. So it really not just like made the session just like, okay, you know, like neutralized it. It like actually ended up the other direction, where it was like, oh wow, that ended up being a really nice interaction with like people we didn't know.
Yeah. And it's kind of it surfaces like those kind of interactions, like you said, you know, seeing who he is, you're like, oh, this is a young kid from Brazil. Like, I'm surfacing all these stereotypes and judgments about who this person is. And not, if it wasn't for him actually engaging in a conversation, I would have sat with myself and continued to assume that all young Brazilians are like this. And it's not fair. It's not a fair way to think about people out there. You don't know who they are, what stories they have out there, that who they really truly are, you know, as a human being on land, you know, but you only get to see this small little aspect of slice of their life and how they carry themselves because they're panicking, you know, or they're scared, or they're new to this environment. So I think it taught me a lot as well. I love how like surfing also teaches you about a lot about human behavior and socializing. And yeah, I guess that's like I could trail off into that thinking, but I also feel, I guess I want to state that I feel bad that I created all of these prejudgments about him, and I don't want to have these kind of thoughts about Brazilian surfers, about 20-something-year-old surfers, because he represented himself well. I hope that I represented myself well back, you know, after engaging with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I have to give you credit too, because honestly, if I didn't know you as a person that's like quite open-minded and articulate and like able to it, like, you know, with the whole getting hit in the face thing, it's totally, I think, valid to be angry and like blinded by that anger and, you know, go off. Like, I think that's a totally reasonable response that anybody would have. Like, I just want to remind you, because I know it sucks to feel bad about that, you know? But like, come on, people, like everybody's human. You're all human. If you're gonna pretend like this looks crazy, you're gonna pretend like you don't have crazy, like you've never experienced crazy in your life. So no, I want to remind you that. But I already knew that, like, you're so open-minded about that. And if somebody was gonna come and talk to you, whether you agreed with them or disagreed with them, you were gonna be able to like carry a civil conversation about it, you know, assuming they're not like insulting you, you know?
Yeah.
So like, if I didn't know that about you, or if I wasn't like so sure of that, I probably like wouldn't have been like, oh, go talk to her, like tell her, you know? So it's like really credit to you, and to be able to walk away and be like, you know, I could judge people less, because we all could, like, you say that and I'm thinking like, yeah, I could judge people less too. I totally could, like, not come forward with like stereotypes before approaching someone so hard, you know?
Yeah, it is really hard to steer away from the stereotypes on the lineup, because they're very blatant ones. And I'm pretty sure that we paddle out there with people stereotyping us out there, whether we're women, you know, or we're, you know, coming out with a longboard or a certain type of board. 1 second, sorry.
Yeah.
I like to think that we set an example of ourselves out there. Like, I think for those that stuck around, I want to stuck out around in the lineup to see all of that unfold, where it went from this chick yelling at this dude to, okay, why are they laughing together all of a sudden 20 minutes, 30 minutes later? I like to think that maybe they see something like that and they're like, oh, are they friends? Were they friends all along? Or maybe like that situation could turn into a good situation, or I don't know. Like, I hope that it did set some kind of positive example about to our community in the surf world, to those who saw it. I hope it made a difference.
Yeah. And there was also, you know, when I was talking to so you also generally have, when there's confrontations, other people in the lineup that may or may not usually not. They usually will never get involved. Sometimes they might, but you know, one girl asked me, she's like, hey, like, I just want to check, are you okay? And I was like, thank you for asking that. Like, that is like really, really nice of you. I'm like, I'm totally fine. You know, I'm just like talking to him about this thing that happened. But I was like, thank you for asking that. And she's like, yeah, man. Like, she's like, we're like the only chicks out here. Like, we have to stick together. And that mentality, I don't know, I thought was really cool, because just because you see other women in the water, that is not always the case. That isn't always the vibe. So it was really cool for her to reach out and say that. And I think, you know, even though the situation ended up, you know, being fine, but I think that like we should all take more responsibility of what our lineup is like. And
that's your community for the next 2 hours that you're out there. So be a community, you know. There is that angry guy. There's always some angry guy out there, and maybe he just needs encouragement or some positive energy sent his way. I guess, like, you know, or, you know, somebody just wants to be left alone, or it takes, I think it's like small, I guess it takes small gestures, so that other female surfer coming up to you and asking, was everything okay? Like, even a small gesture like that just is an acknowledgement that, like,
this is a safe place. Yeah.
And it's cool because it allows some kind of recognition that something happened, instead of staying silent about it. So I hope there's some kind of impact.
Yeah, I think it was so funny because like when you were talking to him, I was like, I bet they're gonna become friends. And then like a couple minutes later, you guys are laughing. I was like, I think they're friends now. But it was such a cool. It's so funny because there's this book that I'm reading. Well, I do a bunch of audiobooks all the time, and in one of the most recent ones, one of the stories was about how like one guy pissed off the other guy, and then something happened, and now they're really good friends, right? And so these can be situations that turn into something positive, and remaining open-minded about that can bring you something really cool. Even if we never surf with the guy again, just the experience was like, wow, like there can be something good underneath all of that.
Yeah.
And that's like a good feeling when you're going out surfing with, a ton of people all the time.
And those positive vibes, even in those rough situations. So
what kind of advice would you give to like women in the lineup on just like navigating these type of situations? Like,
your feelings are valid. I think that it's okay to express yourself. I think, what we're all trying to do on land and on the lineup is take up space. And so take up that space, and if you know that you were wronged, and I think you should speak up. It's okay to speak up. I mean, whether the situation is going to get worse or make it worse or make get better, like at least speak up, exercise that voice of yours. Then I think it draws up your confidence to speak up in different situations. I think it just opens up opportunities to know more about yourself and communication. So yeah, it's okay to take up space. It's okay to express yourself. Your feelings are valid. At least in this situation, I felt like I felt bad in the end. I don't know. Have some sense of emotional maturity, intelligence, or
what would you say if like I'm someone listening to that advice, which I think is amazing advice, but I'm still feeling really timid or really fearful because I don't know maybe what consequences might be going through my mind to like speak up. Do you think there's a piece of advice before saying speak up that might speak to people that might feel more timid than that?
I don't know. I can't.
So it's right.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand, it takes a lot of practice. I think it takes a lot of practice going out there every day to learn how to navigate the lineup, because I've been surfing for over a decade, and I've never been in a situation that bad as
Really?
I experienced yesterday. I even explained this to him. I was like, in the 10 years that I've been surfing.
Oh my God, am I like your bad luck?
Maybe. Wait. Well, yeah, we have several incidences. No.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been in an accident that bad. That because I prided myself in navigating the lineup and reading everybody's behaviors before.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I put the same amount of energy reading the waves, reading the conditions, as much as I put energy into reading the people around me. So I've always managed to navigate my way around. But when you do come into those incidences, I think that you build up this knowledge that helps you build up this confidence to know what actually happened, what went wrong, what could you have done to prevent this. And so running into an incident like that, I knew exactly what happened. It wasn't like a gray area. It was like, no, he did not have any spatial awareness. He's a beginner-ish. He's a bodyboarder, but he's a beginner-ish in a new environment. I didn't know these things, but I knew that he looked like he didn't know really how to manage the lineup out there. So that's why he panicked and tried to avoid the wave and crashed into me. So when you come to that conclusion, then you can be confident to express like what happened was not right, was not appropriate, and you didn't do anything to create that situation. But
yeah, I mean,
that specifically, I hope that kind of,
I think
that explains.
Yeah, I think obviously experience is a big one, right? And also, you're really good about keeping a journal. I need to be better about one. But also, I think if you look at these experiences that you might have, like him, let's say no one spoke to him about what happened. Like, let's say we didn't have the second chat up and like no one became friends, and he goes home and he's like, this is what happened. And if you were him in that situation, or you were Farrah, I'm talking to the audience, or to my listeners here, if you were him or you were Farrah, you could go home and be like, what happened there? And you could talk to other more experienced surfers and say like, hey, this was what the situation was. What was the right thing to do? What was the wrong thing to do? Or what was the safe thing to do, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe from that, start understanding more of like, there are things in the lineup, even when people do know that they're doing them, that are wrong. Yeah. And you have to like encounter that situation enough times, like being back paddled. If you're new, you're going to get back paddled, meaning you might be in the perfect spot for a wave, and a more experienced surfer is going to come up behind you and around you to get themselves in a little bit more of a perfect spot, right? But you were already there, right? I remember being a beginner and that happening to me, and me like asking my boyfriend at the time, like, I don't get it. Like, why did that happen? You know, I thought it was like mine. But until like having those conversations and seeing it happen multiple times, only then can you confidently be like, yo, can't do that. Get out of here. You know? But I'm just trying to think like, yeah, when you're newer, I mean, I guess that experience, talking to people, being open-minded.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. Replaying the events in your head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And don't be deterred if somebody does yell at you. I might yell at you.
Then you'll be friends.
Yeah, but we'll be friends if I yell at you. No, I think that if you are, you're just starting off into surfing, like, you do have to realize that it's a lot of mental exercise that comes into practice, not just physical. So you do have to get over, your timidness. Sorry, I have to be upfront. You have to get over being timid, because you're not going to get far if you're going to be timid.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do need to make those mistakes, but I hope you're making those mistakes with a soft top board then.
And yeah, I mean, and that being said, like, this whole conversation actually is partly reframing surfing to me in my mind. Like, you can think surfing as a sport where you have this wave and you have this board and you're at the beach, but really, especially because of how crowded it's become, surfing as the sport includes the people around you. Like, that is now part of the game. And if you're going to play, if you're going to play this game, if you're going to catch these waves, you also should expect yourself to become well-versed in the movement of people around you and what's going on. And yeah, it's really cool. It is really, that game of paddling out, assessing who, and like, I can't blame you that much for stereotyping him, because we do go out and stereotype guy with no leash and a mustache going to try to take all my waves. Like,
like, barely wearing the wetsuit. It's like half of them.
Yeah, like, why are you wearing an open wetsuit jacket? Like, so, like, I mean, stereotyping is going to happen in that sense. But yeah, I think when it came down to it, you were able to have a conversation and let him like take that stereotype away. But yeah, I think the whole politics of people in the lineup is part of the game now. And you have to...
Everybody was conscious about that.
Yeah. It's not just the wave. It's not just the board. We're, it's a people, it's a crowd type of thing. So
yeah. Put in the time. Just put in the time.
Put in the time. Yeah. Well, Farrah, thank you so much, not only for such a fun surf yesterday. I know I texted you yesterday, like, oh my God, that's just what I needed. Yeah, it really was. And it was just like such a good like feeling for that situation to turn around. So I was like glad to be a part of it and like, you know, just enjoy it. I feel like that rarely happens. So it's like really cool to know that that can happen. That could be our standard. That could totally be our standard in the lineup, right?
Well, hopefully it doesn't happen too often.
not the board in the face thing. No. Yeah.
No, I'm just glad you were there, to be honest. It would have been something different. Who knows? But I'm just glad that I had somebody. And I'm usually a solo surfer, so to have this happen when I had a friend there, like, I'm even more thankful because you really drove the conversation to happen.
Yeah, and if it wasn't a conversation, we were gonna kick ass. So no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, most of my friends probably already know that, like, if you surf with me and someone like fucks with you, like, I'm gonna fuck back. Like,
in the nicest way possible.
In the nicest way. You should say sorry to her. Yeah. Cool. Thanks so much, Farrah.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me share this story.
Absolutely.